Hello and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek 411. Tonight we are chatting about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, doing a spoiler cast and all that kind of thing. And so with me, as always, my name's Cameron. With me, as always, from the Great White North, Janine. How you doing?
Doing good.
Still white up there, isn't it?
It's not.
Oh,
It was not warm today, but it's not white.
Calgary got some snow, I guess. So
It's 90 degrees in Texas today.
no, thank you.
Yeah. It's only the beginning of May. Here we go. With us, not quite as far north, Chris Nicolay. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good.
And West Coast, Best Coast, Emma. How you doing?
It was 70 degrees today.
Yeah, rub it in. Rub it in.
Very pleasant.
So, like I said at the top, we are doing our Doctor Strange spoiler cast. We will give a full official spoiler warning once we get into that. And then from that point on, spoilers for whole MCU are going to be discussed. Nothing is off limits. And so just be aware of that. Before we get in,
Just look at the name of the stream. You should know.
now, we appreciate it if you haven't seen the film, just mute the tab. Give us the view. Yeah, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411. You can join our Discord server if you want to chat during the week or shoot us an email to 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can also check out our website, onegeek411.com. You can watch live on Twitch each Monday at 6:45 Mountain Time, be part of the conversation and those post-show chats. You can find the videos over on our YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. Hit us up with your impressions of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Then you can check out that Redbubble store. So let's get into it. No spoilers at this point, but what is everyone's initial thought using our book club thing? Keep it brief. Janine, why don't you kick us off?
It was pretty good. It was not quite everything I was hoping for, but it was overall enjoyable.
Chris, what do you got?
Marvel doesn't know how to experiment.
Emma, what about you?
Similar mood, but it wasn't terrible. It was interesting.
It was interesting.
I'll put it that way. And that I use that in the sense that it could go either way. There are some parts where it goes one way and other parts where it goes the other way.
Yep. I think I'm there with you. There are some parts of this movie that are like some of my favorite MCU moments.
Yeah.
And then there are other parts that I'm like, man, I wish that this portion would have been handled differently. We'll get into a bit of those as we go. But some stats. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is the 28th MCU film. And it's really the first one to bring in the Disney Plus shows. It also had a pretty great box office weekend with $185 million domestic and $450 million worldwide. So very good reception for that. So let's get into spoiler territory. So right now, full spoilers, everything's allowed. We're going to chat through the plot real quick. I'm going to just give an overview as taken from Wikipedia. As we go, feel free to stop me, and we'll just kind of go through it. And then we'll dig into questions about the characterization, overview, favorite parts, that kind of thing. Oh, and I should say, if you're in chat hanging out with us, if there's any questions you would like us to answer, drop those in chat. And so we can get them either into the notes or chat about them as we're there.
Sorry,
So-
before we jump into further, can you turn up your mic?
Me?
Yeah. You're sitting pretty low.
Turning up the mic. Bow, 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 bow.
That
Woo!
works. Shane,
Beautiful.
quick mic check too.
Check, check.
Can you turn yours up too?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Hopefully we don't lose you when you do.
Is this better or worse?
It's about the same.
Better or worse?
A little better.
Better?
Talk a little longer.
I'm talking. We're gonna talk about Doctor Strange. I have
Up a little
thoughts.
more. Keep going.
Oh my goodness. How about now?
There we go.
Okay.
And Emma.
Hello, saying words, talking about Doctor Strange. We also got some Doctor Who news earlier, but that we're not going to talk about that today because we're talking about a different kind of doctor.
Should have done this beforehand. Can you turn yourself down a smidge just for leveling
Yeah.
reasons?
Yes, I can do that. How about now? How is things looking? Hello, hello.
There we go.
Saying
Okay.
words.
Perfect. Okay. A little behind the scenes for everyone.
So
Welcome
here,
to the thing I've been doing
yeah.
for the past
exactly.
4 months.
Emma knows all about it.
I do. Okay, continue, Cameron.
Let's jump into that plot. So the movie opens with America Chavez and a version of Doctor Strange being chased by a demon through this weird inner space thing, looking for the book of Vishanti. As Strange is about to be killed, he tries to steal America's powers. And we find out that those powers allow her to open portals through the multiverse. I should say he tries to steal her powers so that the monster doesn't get them. Important clarification. And then he gets sucked through with her and ends up dying. Rip. And so as America comes in, we find Doctor Strange at his ex's wedding, hanging out, doing stuff. And then he suits up and goes to fight the weird tentacle-y octopus monster.
I just
Go
say,
ahead.
I just thought when you mentioned he was at his ex's wedding, I just thought, that's rough, buddy.
That's
from
rough, buddy.
Avatar.
Yes.
Okay,
Hard
go on.
agree. Hard agree. And here we get a pretty cool fight with Doctor Strange and Wong against the tentacle monster. And then we get a little bit of background. We find out that there are important questions that we need answered about Spider-Man to determine how much of a menace he is. And so America asks if the webs come out of his butt, which is,
I'm glad you could read my expression.
yes, I got you. Emma. I got you. And so
I was just like,
Strange recognizes the runes and heads to consult Wanda Maximoff because she knows everything about witchcraft. There's no way this could go poorly. And we find out that after acquiring the Darkhold, she now believes that controlling America's powers will allow her to travel the multiverse to reunite with her sons, Billy and Tommy. When Strange refuses to surrender her, surrender America, Maximoff attacks Cumbertage, killing all of the sorcerers. Rip that one guy that ran away. It was all your fault. You let everyone down.
He didn't
And-
fortify his mind.
He did not fortify. They literally told him what to do, and he refused to do it. From here, Strange and America end up traveling through the multiverse, and then Wanda begins to use the Darkhold to dream walk, which is a way of traveling the multiverse by possessing alternate versions of yourself. And so one of the other sorceresses sacrifices herself to destroy the Darkhold and break the dream walk, which causes Wanda to begin to torture all of the dead sorcerers that we already thought were dead in an attempt to get Wong to give her the location of the rest of the spells. Wong, of course, gives in and then takes her to this mysterious Mount Wendigo, something like that. Mount Winnebago, something. And
Something along those lines.
something like that. And from there, Strange and America end up on Earth 838, where they are captured by Mordo and brought before the Illuminati, which is a group consisting of Mordo, Captain Carter, Black Bolt, Maria Rambeau's Captain Marvel, Reed Richards, and Charles Xavier. They give us an exposition dump explaining the issues with dreamwalking, multiverse travel. Turns out the Darkhold's bad. No one could have guessed this. And we get
like they've been telling us that already.
Right. And I thought Wanda was just trying to give everyone hugs. And we find out that spending too much time in a different multiverse will cause something called an incursion. And then we also find out that the Illuminati killed their version of Doctor Strange because he had been dreamwalking and had actually triggered an incursion. And so they believe that our version of Strange is really dangerous. He tries to warn them about Wanda, and they don't believe him. And then Wanda shows up and messes everyone up, turns out. From there, Wanda tries to, or Strange and America try to get the book of Vishanti. Vishanti. I said it correctly the first time, which it turns out is the opposite of the Darkhold, because of course. But instead of closing the door behind them, they decide to just leap through, and then Wanda finds them and kidnaps America and brings her back to our universe. And so from there, Strange ends up possessing the dead version of himself that is in the 616 universe. Makes a cool cape because apparently one of the rules of the Darkhold that we were never told is that you can't possess a dead body of yourself. And we find that out at this point in the story. And then we get a fight between Zombie Strange and Wanda that ends with him giving a very motivational speech to America about how she can do it. And she's always been in control of her powers the whole time. And then she sends Wanda back to Earth 838, where she encounters that version of Billy and Tommy, who are now afraid of her because, she's like murking people left and right. And so she realizes that she was the monster and decides to destroy Mount Wundagore. There we go. I finally found it in the document on Wikipedia. And apparently in destroying Mount Wundagore, it destroys all copies of the Darkhold throughout the multiverse. And she, there's a puff of red magic as it collapses. And so eventually we found out that Kamertage has been repaired and America is there training to become a wizard. And we also find out that through the use of the Darkhold, that Strange has now developed a third eye in the middle of his forehead. And then he also meets up with a sorceress to go and fix some incursions. So that is our overview of the plot. Definitely did not cover everything. But with that, what was your favorite part of the film? Chris, why don't you kick us off? I like calling on people.
This is a stupid question. I'm just kidding. I can't say I have a favorite part. Quite honestly.
No.
Yeah. Pretty much the entire movie rode on like the same level for me, so.
Okay. Shanine, what about you?
Not necessarily a specific part, but I really did love the horror elements. And I don't know, probably my least favorite part is that they didn't lean into the horror more. But yeah, I liked the horror. It was fun. It was cool. There was some psychological weirdness going on. A few jump scares.
Mhm.
Didn't make anybody jump because we all saw them coming, but it was still fun that they were there.
As someone who got by the jump scares, completely disagree. There were some that were like very obvious that were coming, but like there were definitely others that got me. Emma, what about you?
I'm exactly the same thing as Shanine. Like, I loved the horror moments. I wish that they would have like extended that, like, because it felt very much like there were sections of horror and then sections of like multiverse, and they were like two different things going on. And I wish they would have carried some of the horror over. Like, there was some great classic horror references, the zombie hand coming out of the ground, and like the wet, creepy looking figure silhouette and stuff, and the jump scares and everything. I wish they would have, if they like carried that throughout rather than having little sections, it would have felt more unified. But that, I definitely loved that whole vibe because it fit really well with both Doctor Strange and Wanda as their characters and what they can do with their abilities.
So for me, I guess for me, my favorite part is the end. I really enjoyed the getting to see Strange come back. I glossed over it in the summary, but we get to see when he gets to meet the other versions of himself, and like I liked the fight against the other Doctor Strange. I thought that was like the musical fight. Like never would I have thought that we would have had a like musical battle that he sometimes somehow wins by plucking a heart, which creates the one note that can do it. But I loved that, and I did really like the zombie Strange giving the motivational speech. Like I did really enjoy that, and I think that that's a very fun part of the film that I don't know how we would have gotten if it wasn't like trying to walk that line between being horror and being comedy. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. Let's do the opposite of that, yeah, and we'll actually go backwards from the order that we just did with our least favorite parts. For me, mine kind of builds off of what Emma and Shanine said as their favorite part. But that is that this felt like it was trying to be multiverse and madness. And I kind of wish they would have picked one. I feel like some of the weaker parts were because this wasn't really about multiverse hopping and it wasn't really a horror film. They kind of just hung out in 838, and I wish that we would have gotten to see more multiverse in this. That'll kind of tie in with a question that we have later on, but in a sense, I kind of wish they would have picked a lane and gone with that. Emma, what about you?
Yeah, definitely feel along the same lines. Like they were trying to do too much in one movie. I feel like they could have easily, if they wanted to stick with both, they could have easily made it like a chase movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like sort of adjusted the entire plot and still had the like major things they wanted to do, but it definitely felt like they were trying to do too much. And kind of like I said earlier, and what you were just saying, Cameron, it felt like intersplicings of two different movies that just so happen to have the same characters, just with the different tones or whatever. Yeah, I think that's the major thing.
Shanine, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It was trying to do too much of everything and then somehow didn't do enough of anything. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna put in my geeky gripe here as well, since I don't think it fits in with any of the other questions. But me and my husband were both really irritated when they said that the main universe was 616. We're like, but it is it? Like, but the comics are 616 and you're not doing the comics. And then we were frustrated by that.
I heard a funny take on that, which is like if aliens showed up today and said, "Oh, you called your planet Earth? Well, we call it Waffle." We would be like, "You know what? It's Earth." And then we would go to war with them and fight them over the name of our planet because that's just what we do. And so I'm over here imagining like multiverse war started because they called us 616. And it's like, no, we're not about that. We're Earth Prime or whatever. We got to be the most important one.
It's not
Sounds about right.
It's
Yeah.
the MCU.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna reference themselves though.
That would have made me hyped though.
Like, I
If
feel
they-
like the 616 is just supposed to be an Easter egg referring
Yeah.
to.
And I saw something that they pointed out that that is also what Mysterio calls it when in Spider-Man Far From Home. He also calls it Earth 616, which is just funny that you have used that twice now. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I would have loved if they would have used the letters. Like in the movie, in the movie, the designations are letters versus comics where they're numbers. And it like if they would have been like, we call y'all's universe MCU. That would have made me so happy.
Or like the cinematic universe or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like,
Yeah, they're alphabetized, and y'all were the third one or the second
Yeah.
one that we discovered. So y'all got a C word. So y'all are cinematic.
yeah.
They should have just
That's
moved away from the numerical system.
Yeah.
Gave them random designations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your Gamma Delta.
Chris, what was your least favorite part?
So I know they said, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed some of the horror elements, but they were such a miss for me as a result of them not leaning into it. Like, and so for me, it's not so much that they were trying to compete between the horror aspect and the multiverse aspect. They were trying to be too much of a Marvel superhero movie. So just like with Black Widow, they lean too much into the action elements that make Marvel movies what they usually are. And it was just overall too distracting from everything. Also, I feel like they spent way too much budget on like one multiverse transition scene where they're like, oh, we'll have them turn to paint. Oh, they're plants. Oh, they're like that cliche multiverse jumping thing where, and yeah.
I'm gonna move this question up in the show notes. Let's go ahead and do this. What did y'all think of how they represented the multiverse here? Like we've kind of already like hit on this question and danced around it with like some of our thoughts, but as a whole, how do you think the multiverse side of this was handled? I'll say for me, I loved that we got to hang out in the 838 for a bit. And I really wish that it hadn't been basically our New York, but flowers. Like it seems like a miss that as like for Chris, what you were just referencing, like they go through this transition where we see all of these really weird multiverse or parts of the multiverse. And then we land in, oh, the only difference here is that you walk on red instead of green.
So
go ahead.
like with that, like there's a couple things that I have like I understand the concept of what they were trying to do, but I feel like they lost an opportunity doing all of that. And yeah, so like I feel like we should have had other multiverses, more dystopian, maybe like have them visit more dystopian world, but like something that we were seeing like in, I don't know, because we're also dealing, like, especially because it is Doctor Strange. So we have the multiverse aspect, and we also know there's different realms from the original Doctor Strange.
And the post-credit scene.
And the post-credit scene. Yes. Which, so that means there's multiversal realms and stuff. And so I feel like when you do like what our existences possibly, like the different possible existences, and how we exist, like with being paint or whatever it was, or things like that, that feels more of a realm shift than a multiversal shift to me.
It's possible that's just where they landed too. Yeah.
Right.
Shanine, what about you? How do you think they handled the multiverse?
It was interesting, I guess. I kind of liked the cliche, like, look at here, we're falling through a million universes. Cool. I thought it was interesting, just like seeing all the different ones and stuff. Overall, I feel like it didn't feel very multiversey. Like it kind of just felt like we went to one other world and then briefly a third one, and that was it. And it didn't feel, I was expecting more of like a broad sweeping multiversal thing, and we just went to two places.
One thing I really did like about the multiverse was America stating, yeah, every other universe I've been to, you don't pay for food.
Yeah, food is free in most places. Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. I like that. And we get something similar when he's like, wait, in one of those multiverses, weren't we paint? She goes, yeah, it's hard to eat there.
Yeah.
I just love that that's where America's at, because that's where I would be at too. It's like, I'm in a new universe. What do I do for food? And that made me happy. Yeah, I wish that there would have been some more. I feel weird saying more diversity when obviously they were paint in one. But I would like to have seen some more like what could you do through these references? If we would, I think it'd been cool if we would have gotten to see that more often. Like every time you jump, or every time America jumps, she has to jump through multiverses to get to the one she wants to get to.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really interesting. I don't know necessarily if that would have fit in well with what was going on, but like plot wise at the moment, but I think that would have been cool. Emma, what did you think about the multiverse?
Yeah. I mean, this kind of goes back to my earlier comment. I do kind of wish that they'd done more with it, in the sense that we see like two different versions, and that's about it, or whatever. And I wish they'd done more in the sense of like maybe had the plot be more of like a chase through like, or runaway plot or whatever from Scarlet Witch, or whatever. I also liked the multiverse transition, just because I like that kind of stuff and I find it funny, and it's fun to see. Like, granted that like with the paint world, that would have been super expensive for them to do more than 10 seconds of or whatever. But like it would have been fun to see a bit more of that, kind of like Cameron, you were just suggesting she has to jump through multiple layers, if you will, to get to where she wants to go, to see like what the possibilities are. Because it did feel a bit flat, one-toned. It didn't really feel like a multiversal thing.
Yeah, I think a chase would have been very cool. I was talking to a friend, and one of the things that got brought up was that the whole plot line about the like Wanda getting these demons gets dropped right away. That like now she says that, of course, because that's her going easy on them. That was the nice way or whatever. But I think that that's something that would have been interesting if it would have been like the instigation of them jumping to a new multiverse for the first time wasn't Wanda attacking. It was a demon shows up and they need to get away. In chat, Chunk says, I want to travel to a universe where junk food is health food. Hard agree.
Stay for a little bit, come back.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think getting to see more of that, like more of those shenanigans, I think would have been great. It feels like it was light on shenanigans in the realm of the multiverse. So let's get into chatting about the characters in specific. We're going to start with Doctor Strange. What did y'all think about Doctor Strange's journey throughout the film, and tying this into our theme of the Sage? What did you think about how his character grew as a Sage mentor throughout the film, or do you think he grew as a Sage mentor throughout the film?
I think throughout the movie, like, I think the underlying theme for Strange is him, like, obviously, like, early on, he goes to a wedding and he's questioned about, was this the only way? So, I mean, he's still struggling with his decision on what path to put 616 on, I guess, in this case, regarding Thanos. But he's also, you know, dealing with kind of, he's obviously struggling with his own pride throughout it, because he, you know, to him, before he even has this full understanding of what's going on with the multiverse, he has this dream where his own arrogance, like, I can prevent this being from capturing it, so I can hold on. And to him, that's a dream. Like, it was at first a nightmare until he realizes it's, you know, himself. But then kind of coming to terms with kind of that side of him after hearing all these stories about the things he's done. And then ultimately growing and, like, coming to a different decision at the end there. And very Sage-like. He even gets a mentee, like, right away. Granted, we don't see any, like, outside of random speeches, we don't see him actually mentor her, which is something I would have liked more. Like, it's like, we have a space here. Let's see if we can figure out how your powers work. But we never see that. It's just like, it's like, oh, suddenly you get
Yeah, he figures out that she's been doing it right the whole time.
The whole time, apparently. You got to trust it. It's like, okay.
You know that traumatic event
like
from
your
past?
Actually did it.
I'm sure he was okay.
Yeah.
That was actually.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was a moment that I went to see it with a friend of mine, where we both, when we got her backstory in like less than 10 seconds, we, as bad or like, you know, traumatizing as that scene was, we couldn't help but laugh, because it was like the entire story in 10 seconds of, she sent her parents to an alternate universe.
What a convenient piece of technology.
Yeah.
Just for his plot progression.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna move on.
Instead of me tell you my story, let me show you randomly why you happen to wandering on this piece of memory.
We didn't do a Fantastic Beasts spoiler cast, but I think Fantastic Beasts Crimes or Secrets of Dumbledore could have used a magic thing that you step on and it shows memories.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was
the magic literally exists in the regular Harry Potter movies.
There's literally a device that does this that I think would have been better than how they told something.
Really, all you need is a pool of water and your wand. Boom.
Yeah. Got him. Emma, what do you think about Doctor Strange's journey?
I mean, there's definitely a shift from beginning to end. I would have liked to have seen him struggle with it a bit more. You see him struggle with
Himself.
Geez, what's his ex's
Oh.
himself? But what's his ex's name?
Christine?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Christine.
like I would have liked to see him fight with an alternate version of himself for sure. But like, I feel like a lot of the struggle we see with him is like over Christine and that, and then I like the change at the end where he's like now sort of has put himself in a mentor position and is less self-centered to say the least, um in that regard. uh but I think that could have been expanded through something like running into an alternate version of himself who maybe got to marry Christine or whatever.
I feel like they wanted to avoid that because, like, just because we have a whole what if episode.
Yeah, I never watched that because people told me not to.
Yeah, you're
so
I mean, they kind of reference it too, though. Like, that's, like, I feel like this movie is just the culmination of everything that's been on Disney Plus.
Janine, what do you think?
Like, I don't know if it was just being less interested in Doctor Strange than in like Wanda and other parts of the movie, but I couldn't even figure out what journey we were supposed to be going on with Doctor Strange to like the last 5 minutes of the movie. And they were talking about like him being afraid and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, is that what we're doing? So they could have done something better, I feel. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't really feel like we went on a full journey with him. He started here and then he ended up here and he did stuff in between, but it didn't feel related.
Janine, if you want to be technical, you're right. We didn't go on a full journey with him. If you look at the average and technical structure of a story that every story ends up being, we did not go through a proper journey format. But won't get into that because that's too technical. I could talk about that for hours.
I'll say for me, I definitely agree with everything that you all said. I feel like this this version of Strange is kind of where maybe I shouldn't have used that spell to wipe out everyone's memory version of Strange. Like, we now have the version of this character that would like ask questions beforehand. And I do think that in light of this coming out after No Way Home, I do think that there's some cool growth there, even though Strange presumably doesn't remember directly what happened there. But I do like that there is a little bit of him learning to rely on America, whereas he wasn't really willing to rely on Spider-Man. And yeah, I do think that was cool. I liked that we got to see see Strange deal with the consequences of the other versions of himself's actions. And I hope that, especially with like the third eye thing, we get to see him deal with some of the consequences of his own actions for once. Because I do feel like one of the trope spaces that we got in here was like Wanda is using the thing and she's in trouble, and then Strange uses the thing and he's okay. And so I kind of wish we would have seen a bit more a bit more of that.
I mean, a
But-
part of that probably comes down to awareness.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Wanda's first real interaction with magic was against Agatha, and then next thing we know, she has the Darkhold and doesn't understand its like the aspect of corruption that it may have. Whereas Doctor Strange, when he uses, is like, I've heard, I've seen, and everything, and so having that awareness, like, well, right now this is necessary, but sometimes that awareness can obviously help resist the aspect of corruption, which also obviously didn't completely, but
Yeah, good point. And then, for the Sage's journey, I do like that we get to see him not make the big play at the end. I do like that it is America being the one to hold the knife. And she's the one that figures out the solution. And so I think that's pretty cool.
That was a great moment that could have, I feel like, was overwhelmed by some of the iffiness of earlier events. Like Wanda coming face to face with Wanda because of America.
Yeah. Let's get into America then. What did y'all think about the introduction of America Chavez? Miss America is apparently her comic book name. I was not aware of that until this movie. Did y'all know anything about this character going into this film, or have any thoughts on her performance?
I did not. I had never even heard of her. And this kind of goes back to what I didn't like. I felt that like that entire first sequence with alternate Strange was very unnecessary and very confusing. So like I get what they're trying to go for with that introduction of America, but at the same time it was like, okay, really the only thing that has to do with the movie is introduce us to this good book, and give us a dead body for later on. but it causes more questions, unanswered questions, than it does answers.
I mean, it does set up the aspect of what we think, like when we're dreaming, like that ultimately, like it sets up that idea. It does a lot and it also sets up, Strange's struggle a little bit if you read into it, but yeah, it's not as blatant. So I'm okay with the opening.
Otherwise, I really liked the introduction, but
I'm also just okay with the movie.
Of her.
So
yeah, there you go.
I had no clue who she was coming into this. Like, we see that first scene, and I was like staring and like, do I know who this is? And then it turns out, no, I did not.
Plot twist. I had no clue who this was.
And I don't know, by the end of the movie, I kind of felt like I still didn't really know who this was. I feel like some more character development.
She doesn't even know who herself is yet. Come on, Janine.
I don't know. I did not get particularly invested in her story by the end of it. I thought, like you guys said, it was great, like having her in control in the last moment and stuff, but it still didn't feel like, yes, this is what we've been waiting for. It was like, oh, good for her, I guess.
Yeah. We didn't have, I think going off of that, we didn't have a reason to doubt when Strange said that she was in control of her powers.
Yeah.
Like, we never saw her like take them to a bad spot, which I guess is kind of Strange's point. But like, Like since we never saw that, we never had a reason to doubt that she could do it. And I completely agree with you, Shanine, that like she kind of felt
They
like the
really only
MacGuffin.
tell us.
Yeah, she was the MacGuffin. And I like,
What I said.
yeah, I like that she's the racial tension in chat. I was like definitely DC's Star Girl. And yeah, I really liked her as a character, in the sense that this was her introduction and it wasn't in her own film. But I really wish that we would have gotten more with her. I really like how I thought she was played very well, and I really like the role. I was familiar with America just through the sense of like I've seen comic covers that she's on. I like after the movie, I went and like to the Marvel website to look her up, and I was like, oh, she has multiverse powers in the comics. Oh, did not know that. So it was all new to me. Oh, and Chunk says, I honestly thought it was Miss Marvel at first.
Okay, you're both right. She popped up and I was like, is this Miss Marvel? And then I was like, no.
No, she's
No,
getting a
that's
show.
not right. That's a different actress. And then I was like, she stars.
We're
Is
not
it
there
Star
yet.
Girl? And then I was like, no, that's not right either. Yeah, I think the actress was really good. She was very well played. Yeah. You said she was a MacGuffin, and that's exactly what I said when we finished watching the movie too. It was like she wasn't that important as a person.
In chat, racial tension makes a point that I want to bring up later on, kind of expand on then, but I'm gonna tease it now. They say should have gave us a Disney Plus origin and then inserted her into the MCU.
Yeah.
If
they'd even just had that before this came out
Yeah.
and then kept this exactly the way it was, she would have felt less like a MacGuffin.
But how?
I mean, I'm not saying it not entirely less like that.
No, I mean,
But
like, how would you do it for Disney Plus?
I would do it as like a mini series, like maybe 3
I honestly,
hour-long episodes.
I
or
honestly
something.
would have
Like-
done a 15-minute. Here's
Yeah,
her
or even
and
like
this
a-
version of Doctor Strange, and that
Yeah.
ends at where the movie picks up.
Yeah,
And just have it
like
be.
it didn't
be an
need to be
intro.
anything like their
She-
full, TV series or whatever.
She
Just like a
could've-
little like.
She could have been in one of the What If episodes.
That's
There you go.
That's probably the best way, because the What If is actually dealing with that.
And I think that would have been an interesting tie-in there, specifically if it was What If, since it's established that she's the only version of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a very interesting twist, where the main America is the only one, and so all these other characters are these weird versions. But this one is, this is just the normal her, just hanging out. But
all in all, like, I wasn't completely aware of her. Like, I'm semi-familiar due to random deep dives that I've done and just clicking links, like on fandom websites and Wikipedias, like after things come out. But in general, I'm excited for what her character means more than her character's existence in this movie. Like, I'm happy they kept her a little lighter since it's not her movie. But they also didn't fully go through Strange. This is almost borderline more of a Wanda movie.
which brings us into our next question. How did
Let
you
me
feel
finish
about
my answer or what?
No, you're good. You're good. Go for it.
Shots fired.
Well, now I don't know where I'm at. Fine, let's go on. Thanks.
What did y'all think about Wanda being the villain? I know going into this, there were some questions around if she would be the actual villain of the movie or would just be kind of the juke. And then to Chris's point that he just made, what did y'all feel about her character development as both a follow-up to WandaVision and otherwise. I know, building off what he just said, honestly, it felt like Wanda got hit with a lot of the main, I'm going to say, growth in this. I mean, in the sense that I definitely felt like it was just retreading WandaVision, but instead of grieving for Vision, she's grieving for her kids.
Yeah.
But I think that the character was played very well. I wish that it would have been delayed that she was the villain. I wish that that's not something that we would have found out in the first 15 minutes of the movie. But I was definitely not expecting her to be the actual villain throughout the whole thing. But what'd y'all think about Wanda?
Like, I think she made a great concept for a villain. But yeah, the execution here, like, I wish, because it was supposed to be like this horror film and those horror elements, I feel like with, as you mentioned, right away the reveal, straight into an action scene. And I'm just like, you know, like her power set makes for such a great horror element that they could have drawn out. Instead of going into an action scene and the obliteration of the temple, like we got a little glimpse of that reality shift of her whispering.
Of all the characters
to run. Like, yeah, like both of them, like just in general, they could have leaned so heavily, like eliminate the action elements from this movie. Have Wanda use that reality shift against people. Have that be a struggle. It's something that we saw even in the original Doctor Strange when he's dealing with the mirror realms and everything. Lean into that aspect.
It's something that we saw in Spider-Man.
Yeah. With Mysterio. There's just...
No, I meant with Doctor in No Way Home.
When he punches him.
They fight in like the
soul out of his body.
Oh yeah. Like every aspect. And then that's where my gripe is when it comes to this, is that Marvel doesn't know how to experiment because they then rely on these action heavy elements that undermine the concept. And they could have leaned so heavily into that, having her power affect Strange in a way that manipulates everything that's going on, and like as it gets directed. There's just a lot of things, but so that's why I like the concept. The execution was meh for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty similar page for me. The thing I said to my friend who I went to see it with at the end was essentially they should have taken a page out of Deadpool's book and let the characters dictate the style of the story. Because, I mean, Deadpool is very action based, but at the same time, it's, you know, set up in a way that's, you've got the sarcastic comedy that's rated R or whatever, and like all of this other stuff that like dictates how the movie ran. And here with this movie, you have Doctor Strange and Wanda, both of whose power sets and just general characters rely so heavily, or not rely so heavily, but like lean into that horror element so well in comparison to, you could throw Iron Man into a horror movie, but it would be weird. It wouldn't work. You could throw Captain America into one, but that would be really weird. Whatever. Like, but like Doctor Strange, Wanda, absolutely. I definitely also would have wanted that villain reveal to drag out longer, because you do have this like whole demons are chasing me thing that exists for like 15 minutes, and that's it. And then it's like, okay, it was Wanda all along. Surprise. And that all along was like 15 minutes. Bye to the demons. But I really liked that sort of release for her at the end of interacting with her different self, saying like, just know they'll be loved. And that like is what breaks her, is literally getting told by herself that her kids are going to be okay. and it all in the light of WandaVision, her arc is definitely the strongest, whether in the light of WandaVision or not, of essentially the three main characters.
I did not see it coming that she was going to be the villain from like the trailers and stuff. I thought we were seeing a bunch of like alternate Wandas in the trailers. And then, yeah, the first like right away, she's like, "Yes, hi, hello, I am the villain."
Oops, I said America's name. My bad.
Yeah. That
And
also, that piece, just like the setup for it was like awkward.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like so much of the movie would have been fixed if, like you guys have been saying, they had delayed the villain reveal. Like,
Mhm.
the horror would have been better, like not knowing what's going on, not knowing who the villain is and who's causing this all. Having Wanda be there as an ally, or so we think.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, revealing Wanda as the villain right from the get-go was a mistake.
They really just shouldn't have explained anything like for 2/3 of the movie. Did the like
That would have fit
cliche
with the multiverse
cliche
thing.
getting
That's
to
the
the
thing.
end, you know, and then
Yeah.
doing a slight flashback like to these elements and pointing out everything. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
But they can't experiment.
100%.
They suck at experimenting. Just throw it. It's like, oh, Doctor Strange is supposed to be this horror movie.
They're so
False.
settled into a
It's
routine
a
at this
superhero
point.
movie still.
I'll call it now. They're settled into a routine at this point.
Yeah,
And they're
Black
afraid
Widow's
to
gonna
break
be
loose.
this spy film. False. It's a superhero
yeah.
movie.
Again, they're settled into a
They'd
routine
already
at
done
this
a
point.
they'd already done a spy film with Winter Soldier. Why go back and do a second one just because it's some people's favorite MCU movie? Why would you want two spy films?
They're stuck in a routine, guys. They're too afraid to break out.
Well, it's
But they
funny
don't
because they get
understand.
these
If they
amazing.
broke out,
like,
they would get more money.
well, part of it's also you have to blame like the directors and like they have some power here, but they get into the routine too. This is a whole new director,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like to the MCU.
That's what I
It
mean
Like, it
by
had-
they.
Yeah, it also wasn't the original
They
director for the film.
encompasses the
That's true.
directors too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They also they need a. Yeah.
I forget who it was, but I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick. But I do believe that there was a different director that signed on originally, but left for creative differences.
Makes me wonder if he
Scott
thought to have
Derrickson, I believe, is
Yeah.
the name.
Maybe he was wanting to lean more heavily into the traditional horror tropes.
That's
they
definitely
threw
the
in the
impression that I
elements.
got
Yeah.
from the announcement.
You know, they had some
Yeah.
good visuals, but then they're just like action sequence.
and the higher ups, the producers, were probably not willing to take that risk. So I hate producers.
I'm losing. I'm like as a result, I'm just losing a lot of interest in MCU stuff now. And I hate to say that because it's been such a big part of everything for so long. But it's just like, man, maybe it's just best to go back and rewatch things anymore and stop.
Just rewatch anything in the first four
Well,
phases.
Like Disney
that's it.
Plus, like they're experimenting there. Sure, that's like where's
The
this?
stuff there has been, yeah,
Just do that for the movies.
Yeah.
You're seeing the success with the actual experimentation that you're releasing on your Disney Plus platform.
yeah.
It's not a big leap for you to let your creators run with a concept. But okay, sorry. Apologies. Derailing.
Final thing on Wanda. One word answer. Is she dead?
No.
No body.
Yeah, no.
It's the rule. No body, not dead. No body, not dead.
Well, and also it's such a sudden demise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be used somehow. Like they have to use it.
Yeah.
It's not a departure demise, you know, which is what they have to do for their heroes or their primary characters. Like you can't just
You can't collapse a building on them and leave it at that.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not good enough for her character, and if she is, I'm done. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That will be the straw, and it will be ultimately Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That was the straw that just broke my back. Just can't. No, it's like
But
obviously
the records show that Sam Raimi is the one who broke Chris.
I'm gonna find him if this is it. If granted, I'll have to watch a few after it, you know, because to confirm.
That's how.
Like I'll be
that's how they get
following
you.
it regardless for a little bit, but ultimately it will come back down to this movie if that's the case, and I will find him. And I will slap him.
That brings us
Will Smith
to
style.
our final main character. And this ties in with the WandaVision or the Wanda being alive thing. If Wong can survive a fall off the mountain while unconscious, the most powerful magical being can survive the temple falling. So what did y'all think of the return of Wong as the Sorcerer Supreme? I'll say for me, of the main characters, I think Wong was the most disappointing one for me. It just feels like kind of in the same way that America's the MacGuffin. Wong is just kind of there doing stuff.
Despite being the Sorcerer Supreme, he gets sidekicked.
Yeah.
And I hate that. They just do him wrong, you know? Like we get so many great things with Wong throughout. You know, the post-scene credit in Shang-Chi. And that's also something like I half expected, like as it was progressing. It's like, where's Shang-Chi in this?
Yeah.
He could teach America how to punch.
But also, like, I was expecting, like, as a result of, like, everything that's going, like, we have, like, the mystical books or whatever, like, I was expecting the rings to have, like, play into this somewhere as a result. And we just didn't see that. Or even, like, in a posting credit would have been great. I don't know, but.
There was actually at that point, Cameron, that you referenced, where he falls off a cliff and still somehow survives. The thing that cracks me up about that is you're Sorcerer Supreme, and you use a grappling hook, a magic grappling hook, to get yourself up a cliff, when you could just as easily conjure yourself something a little bit more helpful than that to get to the top of the cliff. I get that you just fell off, but like...
Well, part of it is referenced. I'm going to give him some credit. Part of it's referenced that the grounds that he is on do have, like, affect his ability to utilize his spell, like, his skills. That's why they couldn't just portal directly there and things like that.
Okay.
So like, I'm going to give him some credit here and say that.
But couldn't he just, like, readjust his grappling hook thing to be, like...
Maybe, I don't know.
A ladder?
Wong just gets done dirty, like, at random moments, but he's also, like, one of my favorite, like, he is my favorite sub-character.
When utilized when he makes appearances. Properly, he's so great.
But he just got sidekickeded, and I'm a little angry about that, but because, first of all, representation,
rightfully so.
He's should be awesome. He should be very cool. But
he should be the best, but he's not.
I mean, there's the part where you, like, portal the creature in half, like in whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Where's that Wong?
We need that guy.
Sinead, what do you think?
I feel like Wong is the only character that didn't disappoint me in this movie. Like, he's just consistently Wong through the whole thing. He's sassy and delightful, and I just enjoy it every time he's there.
That's what I mean. Like him himself doesn't disappoint me. I just think the writers did him dirty a little bit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's like he could have played a much better, bigger part because we're familiar with him. We love him. Do more with him, please.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him get some of the development that Wanda got. Like Wanda gets a lot of screen time for her growth. Yeah. And I really wish that this could have been about Strange, America, and Wong traveling the multiverse.
I would have liked to see like an alternate version of Wong too. Why didn't we get that?
Yeah.
A multiverse.
It's like that interaction.
Why, like, you're in another universe. It's like, why not find Wong? Like, that should be that's who you should be finding.
Gotta say, my friend just sent me this tweet. This is completely relevant. It's that GIF. So it says the original Multiverse of Madness, and it's that GIF from, I think it's Community. There's a guy walking in holding a bunch of pizza boxes, and everything's on fire. And it's just the original Multiverse of Madness. It's just everything's gone horribly wrong in the matter of 10 minutes.
I think because they've done Wong so dirty, he should just get his own series.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Shang-Chi is really like the movie that's done Wong the best. And I really hope that whatever happens for Shang-Chi too, we get to see Wong back actually doing stuff and being awesome. If they're not going to do it in Doctor Strange, like, let's teach Shang-Chi some stuff.
Yeah. Agreed.
So let's get into some of the biggest references that we get with the Illuminati confirmed. What did y'all think of the Illuminati, their deaths? Rip all of them but one person. But what did y'all think about the Illuminati?
I was confused for one major reason. I mean, it was kind of exciting, but also we don't have the rights for X-Men, do we?
Yeah, we do now. They bought them from Fox. Yeah.
When they bought 21st Century Fox, they got and that's why like there's always been discussion about how they'll reincorporate them. But
my other thing was then stemming off of that, isn't Wanda technically a mutant?
The comics are kind of unclear.
She falls under that category as far as I'm aware. It's different for the MCU because of rights when that came out.
Yeah, they've gone back and forth in the comics, especially around when the rights stuff was happening. They've retconned her to not necessarily be a mutant.
Okay.
But yeah, she was intended to be, or initially was one. But yeah, they've kind of retconned around that.
Cool. I mean, back to then the question. I thought it was a great way to introduce, like, with the I felt like the multiverse was a great way to then introduce those sort of crossovers of those different, like the Fantastic Four, X-Men, things like that. Especially with the Illuminati as this, like, sort of center point of which they're all coming in from. In a way, but at the same time, it all goes back to it didn't fit for me. That whole section didn't fit in the movie. But it was fun to see, like, those different things, the characters and groups we haven't seen in the MCU before get to jump in and, like, finally get to have their chance in the spotlight, interacting with these characters that we have such a strong background for already. But it just, as a section, doesn't fit for me. But it's a great place to go as a centrifuge. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the implications.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very awkward execution still. Like, What you said. It's too many things that we want all in one place, I think. Which, again, with the multiverse aspect, if we would have just jumped a few more times, like, we could have gotten all of that. But less awkwardly, in a sense. Yeah, it's just... It's a little weird. Granted, we got a connection, you know, with Shield and, like, the magic powder dust stuff from Agents of Shield. But yeah, implications, just weird execution. Weird place to do it.
I know, it was actually one of my favorite parts. I think probably again just because of the implications and like, I can't believe we're seeing all these things. It was great. I think putting Professor X in the last teaser to come out before the movie was kind of a silly move. Putting what was probably their like biggest hitter. They're like, look,
Granted,
the
I didn't
reveal's
see
not going to be
that.
that exciting in the movie anymore.
I didn't see that last teaser, so like when he showed up, I was freaking out. So like, I was like,
Yeah, I did watch it, and as I was watching the teaser, I was like, I feel like you should have saved this for the movie.
oh.
And then I watched the movie and was like, yep, I was right.
Yeah,
I feel like they could have done that version of Captain Marvel or done Captain Carter.
Yeah.
And had them be the one in the trailer rather than Professor X.
Yeah.
Because you kind of you expect that more from Multiverse of Madness, a different version of one of the characters we already know.
And they've
Especially
already
with
set
Captain
them up
Carter
in What
being
If.
so prominent in What If. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Captain Carter is such a prominent part of that. And like that version of Captain Marvel is in the trailers relatively predominantly. And I feel like it just would not have been a reveal to have shown more of her. But yeah, I also wish they would have held off on Professor X.
As for all their deaths, like, so Professor X's was my favorite because it went into that horror trope a little more, like the mind, the reality, like that aspect.
The more
with
psychological
her,
horror.
the psychological aspect, and like this weird mental world. Awesome. Good job. Everything else, again, too Marvel, too much action, too weird. Yep. Not for me. Not what I wanted.
Let me counter with this. But encounter isn't even the right word. But what if Professor X's death was the reveal that Wanda was the villain?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That was my thought. Like in that is what if him fighting this being in the astral plane, whatever his mind,
that
the
would have
mind,
been
like
such a good reveal. That would have made
like,
it so much
that would have been
better.
bananas, right? If all this time we're watching the other Illuminati get murked by something.
Every time we have these conversations, again, Disney, hire us.
I'm literally getting a degree like 10 miles from you guys. Like,
yeah, that was my biggest thing. I'll say overall,
the problem is like with some of our ideas, it's like, I don't know if I could do this prior to it coming out.
I don't know. I feel like you could have shown me the script and I could be like, what if
maybe
Wanda
maybe
doesn't just,
I could probably manage
what if Wanda doesn't just boop the most powerful psychic in the universe in 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, I liked that going off the idea of the specific deaths. I really liked that they all tied in with the characters. Like Black Bolt gets got by his power building up. Mr. Fantastic gets string sheathed. Captain Carter gets the shield. Captain Marvel gets killed with a statue. That's the only one that kind of doesn't work with it. But I think overall my biggest complaint is that I wish we would have gotten to see Black Bolt do more. Because I feel like he got done so dirty in the Inhumans TV show. And like we got to see him use his powers to kill Doctor Strange. I think it would have been a very cool power-up moment to have seen Wanda stop that or deflect it or do something. But that's mostly just me being like, I want to see Black Bolt actually done well. Not even as a fan specifically, but I want to see them get more
And
time.
that's like
in the
also
sun.
kind of my thing. It's like that's why them also fell short. Is just like it's like we get this reveal, they're in there, they're dead. It's like, okay, what's this all mean for their universe technically? Like it's
Yeah.
this poor universe
So-
just lost their Illuminati. It's just
Yeah. So one of the working theories, because the X-Men theme that plays is specifically credited as the Marvel 97 theme, is that this could be the universe that the animated show will be set in. And so we could see Professor X die, and the show could actually deal with the fallout of Professor X being killed. That's one of the theories going around. But
nice.
Sheen, did you have a chance to talk about the Illuminati, or did you have anything else you want to say?
No, I got to Professor X and then we derailed.
Yeah, okay.
So
I mean, yeah,
the
we're
rest of
talking
the
about it.
Illuminati, Christopher.
Sorry, I'm just saying. It's like, oops.
Yeah, I don't know. Black Bolt, I didn't watch Inhumans, so I didn't know anything about him at all. But like, he seemed cool, and yeah, I hope that we do get to see him done well at some point because it looked interesting. Turns out I still don't like Captain Marvel as this version either. I just like don't care.
Over you.
Captain Carter, I was not a fan of in What If, but in this, I freaking loved her. I was just like, Peggy, yes, the whole time. She was the thing I was most excited about in the movie, probably. She goes and pulls out, I could do this all day. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes,
That got me.
And then
this
dead.
is good.
Yeah.
like-
My disappointment that line didn't get used in Falcon and the Winter Soldier
Oh,
was at least it got used here. And so
yeah.
That was good. Oh, I was so proud of my Peggy. And then, yeah, they reveal John Krasinski, and I was like,
they finally did it.
it's like we've been fan casting him for years, and it's happening. He's
Okay,
here.
I was just gonna
What?
ask. He never had that role before this.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, honestly.
Yeah. So this brings us into do y'all think we're getting John Krasinski in the announced Fantastic Four movie? And
I hope so.
Yeah.
He killed it, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped in there. Go ahead, Cameron.
No, you're good. What do y'all think?
They have to. They have to do it now.
It's Disney though, so I don't trust them anymore.
Just please.
I feel like if they don't, I feel super sorry for whatever actor plays that role.
And once
Oh,
again,
man.
it'll be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Coming back to this,
derails
that
it
just
for Chris.
nope. You ruined everything,
Bye.
Disney. Can
So
we get
assuming we
Netflix
do get John,
to buy the Marvel rights now? From Disney?
buy it back so they can make a TV show?
Yeah, can we Netflix get your money together? We're going after Disney. I will give you all my money. It's not enough, but
Get those subscribers back, Netflix.
what we'll do is we'll have Elon Musk buy Netflix and then we'll go after Disney. There we go.
So assuming we do get John Krasinski in the Fantastic Four movie, what do y'all think the odds are of us getting Jenna Fisher as Sue Storm? His love interest, because I would die if we could get Jenna in the MCU. Oh man, I would be so ecstatic. They could like talk about going
Oh,
to
okay.
sell paper,
I know who this is now.
like random paper related jokes could be there because he folds.
Just goes to tell you how
And-
how much I have blocked that show from my mind.
I love it. I'm down. Let's do it.
I'm down. Let's do it. Fancast. Let's go.
And who do you want to play Sue Storm?
Okay.
Jenna
Then,
Fisher, the person who
so-
plays Pam from The Office.
Oh,
And who is Rainn Wilson?
I mean, he's the Thing.
Great.
I
And
think
then
like the other part of the fandom like wants his actual wife Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt would
Blunt
also,
would
I think, would
be
be
great.
amazing in that role. So
Be cute. I didn't realize they were married. I didn't know they were a thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Cute.
I do think, don't they have kids too? It would be crazy if their like their kid plays
Just
plays-
cast the entire family.
yeah, just cast the family as the Fantastic Four.
It's like if you do that, does Disney get a discount?
Like that would be, I would be so happy. I have no clue. I think their kid, I think they have one kid. I don't know, they might
I
have
don't
two,
know.
but
I don't know
I
anything
think
about their
their kid's relatively young.
Feel
So-
like two.
Yeah, so it'd be a very different version of Johnny, but it would make me super happy.
Let's see.
Can we just get more of
2
Hollywood
children.
casting power couples together?
Yeah.
Like Ryan Reynolds needs to be right alongside Blake Lively.
Yes.
like- We need more like of them on screen together. Just saying.
In chat,
They're
Travis
not
says they'll
entirely
cast
sure.
Rashida Jones as Susan Storm, which would also be great. Would not be mad about that at all. So,
Ooh, yeah.
and then Deanna says, add in The Rock just for fun, but not as the Thing. Most importantly, the Thing needs to be someone else that you don't have to look at. We got to look at The Rock. So,
Yeah.
we got to see it.
You gotta see Dwayne
Yeah.
And then
in
bring
all
back
his glory.
Chris Evans as Thor.
As Johnny.
As
Going
Johnny.
torch,
I mean, Captain America's on the moon. So,
you know. Along with what's his face from Umbrella Academy.
yes. That we got a listener question from Chunk the Hut. What effects do you think this film will have on the future of the MCU and their other projects? And kind of out of that, how do you think this will tie in to upcoming films besides Chris never watching another one because Wanda's dead?
I mean,
Regardless of the quality of this movie, it opens up more crossover and input from things they couldn't previously do. So like getting in team ups with Avengers and X-Men and whatever. So it gives them more chance to branch out.
Disney spent a lot of money getting to this point.
That sounds like the most like bless your heart kind of answer. You spent a lot of money on this, didn't you?
Well, not just that, like last, acquiring and trying to get the rights to set this all up, and sure. Again, I like this movie is ultimately a setup. I like there's a lot of implications and things they can do. It just was poorly executed to me for everything. But it does make me excited for like the one-ofs, I guess, and everything. But yeah, Disney just needs to hire us. That's all I'm saying. Show me the script.
I mean,
I'll
at
fix
least
it. Let
one
me
of us
fix
is
it.
gonna have a degree in
I mean-
this, so
I don't even think you need a degree to fix this.
I can
though,
vouch for the
is
rest
what I
of
mean.
them.
Bring us all in, Emma.
Yeah,
Just listen
I
to the
will.
podcast, and people are
Give me a
like,
few years.
"Oh, that is a good
Got to
idea,
get
that
my
is a good idea."
contacts in place, and then I'll say I know some people.
Shanine, what do you think about the future?
I don't know. I mean, obviously we're going to be seeing more Doctor Strange and more eyes. Possibly they're going to ignore the rules they have set down and start incursioning all over the place. I don't know. I don't know.
Incursion's the next thread, okay?
Honestly, I think that is what we're
Yeah.
going to see. And
Instead
that's
of a
part of
big
what
bad, we just
yeah,
get the incursion.
all the other multiverses are the big bad. Yeah, I think that this movie is going to be viewed kind of like Age of Ultron, where it's a movie that I feel like in general doesn't stand as well on its own, but in the context of what has come after it, provides a very good foundation. Just in the same sense that like Age of Ultron gave us Wanda and Vision, and like we got to see that side of it. We got to get into a bit more of the
It was
the
the
Tony-
backstory for what to come.
yeah, we got into like the Tony versus Captain America dynamic that really kind of becomes a big part later on too. Like, I think that there's a lot there that it does, and it really sets up well going into what ends up being Phase 4. I could definitely see this being one of those films that we get a Secret Wars storyline, and it's all about incursions, and this is Loki season 2, and all of this stuff ties in. And yeah, it kind of becomes that foundational work. And yeah, I like I said, I definitely see it being a huge part of what goes on in the future. And I really hope that they don't take, or they don't get rid of the consequences of traveling the multiverse. Like that's kind of my biggest thing. Like I want to see, because I did like this idea that even if Wanda would have succeeded, she would have just caused an incursion. So I kind of like that, with that Darkhold sense, that futility of her quest. And like that just seems like a demonic book kind of thing to do, I guess. Of I'll help you do this, and then I'll use it to destroy that universe. But yeah, I'm really hopeful for what this does for the foundation of future projects. But I don't know. We'll see. In chat, Deanna says, I also feel like some movies being amazing, it's tough to hit that perfect tone and fan service and character development all in one movie. And that's, I think if you think of it like a pyramid, it's kind of that idea of like, you can, like the business examples, you can have it quick, cheap, or fast, or quick, cheap, or good. There it is. And you can pick two of the three. And I feel like that's kind of that idea here, that you could have good character development, you can have great cameos, or you can have good impacts for the future. And I kind of feel like the parts of this that I was most interested in were those good impacts for the future, rather than a lot of what the film actually did. So we are just about halfway through the announced films for Phase 4. Thor: Love and Thunder will be the halfway point.
Which I know that one's going to be good.
That
one's not going to break me.
Yeah.
That one is not
Taika.
going to break me because
Yeah.
Taika, my boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He hasn't done me wrong
Good
yet.
vibes for that one.
So what do y'all think of these first 5 films that we've had in Phase 4, being Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man?
I have a confession, guys.
It's been weak.
Go ahead.
I haven't seen the Eternals yet.
Me either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's fine.
that's why I haven't seen it yet.
That's the start so far. It's fine.
I mean, I think between these 5 movies, Shang-Chi and Spider-Man were the strongest.
Shang-Chi is the only outlier for me.
What do you mean by that?
It's the only one that I've truly enjoyed.
Right. Yeah.
And it mostly comes down to casting. Like all in all, I think it was
Yeah, pretty much.
like it had a very weak kind of ending, all in all. But I think the overall idea of Shang-Chi was wonderful. I love the implications. I love
it was
the casting.
sturdy.
It expanded on diversification for moving forward. But Everything else is just okay.
Meh.
Moving forward.
Yeah, pretty much. But I definitely agree, Cameron, with what you were saying earlier, where this Doctor Strange is gonna feel a bit like Ultron, where it's just like a means to an end.
It's the
Uh,
springboard movie.
but it's not necessarily like the worst of the MCU movies. It's not Iron Man 3.
It's not the second half of Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, specifically. I still stand by the first half of Iron Man 3 is one of the best MCU movies. The problem is it kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I loved Spider-Man. And then I really enjoyed Shang-Chi. And I think The Eternals is better than it gets flack for, or gets too much flack. I think it's a better film.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
okay.
it's like head and shoulders above anything else. But one of the things that I wanted to reference earlier, and this was off of Travis's comment of should have gave us a Disney Plus origin story for America. I think that the biggest thing that I think this phase has struggled with is balancing the Disney Plus content versus the movie content.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Black Widow was, I mean, a film that we should have gotten 2 phases ago, but that's a whole other conversation. And I feel like where this phase has struggled, Eternals is the one that really brings us up to, is the idea that I think Eternals should have been a Disney Plus series, and then we should have seen Falcon and Winter Soldier or something else take that spot. And I feel like the MCU is trying to find a balance between that content, and I'm really hoping that they get there. Like obviously COVID threw a huge wrench and stuff. And I'm very curious to see where we're going to end up come into phase 4, phase 5. But I'm definitely interested in that. But and then I'll say also for me, I think phase 4 is the phase of wishing things were something else, kind of building off of that.
Well,
Where like
it's
the
wishing
movie,
things were what they said they were gonna make.
well, yeah, yeah, I can see that too. But I think that if
It
people
can go both
back,
ways.
yeah, potato. I think if you go
Yeah.
back and listen to our Black Widow spoiler cast that I'm lifting up my hands here so that I can find this later. One of the big things that we brought up then was the idea that the Black Widow movie we got wasn't necessarily the one we needed. And I kind of feel that same way with this Doctor Strange movie. That I'm not sure if the movie we got was really the one that we needed. In chat, Deanna says, I've loved all the Disney Plus series. Maybe their good writers are all on those. You know?
It's like I don't know if you guys have seen that thing where they were working on Shrek and Prince of Egypt at the same time, and Prince of Egypt was the one that they would send people to as like the project of shame or whatever,
Other way around.
or other way around or whatever. Like one was the project of shame, and they both turned out really good, and then like it's kind of like maybe they started sending their people to the the TV shows were the project of shame, but then they end up being better than whatever. It's kind of like a DC, pulling a little bit of a DC move here.
We'll see.
Anyway, that's just me derailing once again.
Cameron's wife loves Black Widow apparently, and doesn't like that we don't, or that some of us don't like it. I forgot Cameron was on the other end still, but
I was definitely higher than all of y'all.
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I definitely fell on the like. I get where y'all are coming from, but I definitely enjoyed that film more than y'all did. Which like that's the thing that I always reference as like shocking me.
I
That
think
like when we came into that, like this one, I pretty much expected this as our conversation, but like the Black Widow spoiler cast like shocked me. Like 10 minutes in,
There's a part of me that just says, maybe don't watch trailers anymore. Or don't read articles, because they're going to tell me something and I'm going to get excited and lean all into that concept, and then it's going to let me down.
Shanine, do you have any thoughts on Phase 4?
I don't know. It's been largely disappointing. I don't know. Spider-Man, I loved. Shang-Chi was good, but I don't know. I didn't like it as much as everyone else did, I don't think. Eternals I haven't seen, and Black Widow is like bottom 5 MCU for me.
Yep.
And Doctor Strange is like middling at best.
Yeah. I'm super excited for our Marvel tier list. We'll get there. But
We'll go phase by phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I feel like there's parts of this that have hit very differently for different people, which I think is interesting. Like there are some people that I know like loved Eternals, and then there's also people that are putting it as like the worst MCU movie as well. But I don't know. I think that's a very interesting phase for that. That'll bring us to our final question. I know Janine kind of already brought this up, but what did y'all think of the theme for Doctor Strange being having to learn to let go of the knife? How well do you think it was done? And kind of out of that too, are there any other themes, spiritual or otherwise, that stood out to you?
One thing for me that stood out that's kind of related to this maybe is I've always thought it kind of odd that like he becomes Sorcerer Supreme and then the snap happens and he disappears for 5 years. So then Wong takes that place like rightfully, and then the reverse snap happens, if you will, and he's just like cool with no longer having that like role, and like but he spent his whole first movie like fighting so hard, I guess, to get the function of his hands back, if you will, basically. Like there was like a passing joke about it, but you don't really see him struggling over like this thing happens that was out of my control, and now I just lost this thing that I earned through my own hard work as a, you know, someone who was known for their hard work. But maybe that's just the sticking point for me, is something that's like I find it odd that it was never a point of contention for him, especially since he's represented as someone who like spends too much time working and not enough time on their personal relationships with other people. But that being said, I think overall the journey was okay. Could have been better. Not the best, but not the worst. Could have been more, could have been developed more. I talk with my hands a lot. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Janine, what'd you think?
I don't know. Like I said before, I was unaware of the journey we were on until we reached the end. So that was poorly executed for me anyways. I don't know. I think it could have been good if they had done it better. And I didn't really notice any other themes. I think I was too busy being disappointed.
Chris, what about you?
Right? Yeah, like in terms of themes tied to our main character, Doctor Strange, it was really hard to connect to any of them. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you can kind of see them like in the grand picture, but it's hard to think because I had so many problems with how they approached the movie that it was hard for me to take the theme to heart, with the exception of Wanda's theme, kind of her grief and the corruption turned her into someone that she ultimately wouldn't want around her kids in terms of like the parenthood aspect. And then like ultimately that journey. I think that one I connected to a little more. Mostly at the end. But also it's because, you know, they could have done so much better. But I kind of like that aspect, but Doctor Strange's journey itself makes sense. I think it was presented well enough for the story they told. Especially because they did let America do kind of the endy things. But yeah, I don't know. And to Emma's point about him not being Sorcerer Supreme, I think also when he was serving in that position, he was like, "Why am I doing?" Like, I don't think he ever really wanted to be there necessarily, especially after dealing with Loki and Thor. He's sort of like, he's like he gets caught up like at first, like when he's learning everything, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna progress." Then he gets there, he's like, "This is not what I wanted." So I think he's more than okay with Wong being in charge. Like,
Fair enough.
just don't tell me what to do is what his thing is. That's why he wanted to be there. He didn't want to be told what to do. So he got himself to the top.
So for me, kind of echoing what y'all said, I really like the idea of this theme. I like the idea. I thought the theme that they were going to hit us in the face with was the "Are you happy?" Which is, I guess, kind of what happens here. Is he happy being the one that has to hold the knife? But I thought they were going to explore that a little bit more. Like we kind of get that even with like the memory and like of him getting the watch and stuff like that. This idea of like, this is the life you could have. Are you happy with where you are? But I wish that would have been a bit more like, I don't know if on the nose is the right word, because I do dislike heavy-handed themes like that. But it felt like they were kind of building in that direction. And I guess they kind of end with him having to learn to let go, which I think is a valuable lesson. I think it is a good thing for that character. Kind of with the first movie being about him having to learn it's not all about him. And then in this one, him having to learn that, hey, it's still not all about you, but in a different way this time.
Only the movie was actually all about him, though.
Right. And again,
he's literally the titular character.
Yep. And that brings us into our final thoughts. My final thought is I do wish that this film knew a bit better if it was trying to be a Doctor Strange or a Scarlet Witch movie. I do really wish. I mentioned that at the very beginning. I wish they would have balanced the multiverse into or they would have picked multiverse or picked madness. Similarly, I wish they would have picked if this was going to be a Doctor Strange film or a Scarlet Witch film. I enjoyed it. It's not high on my list to go back and rewatch, but I did enjoy the film. But I definitely wish they would have picked a lane.
See, my dichotomy is a little different than Cameron's. Because I didn't really feel the contention between the multiverse or the madness part. My contention is, did you want to make a superhero movie or did you want to make a horror movie? Do you want to try something new or not? Make up your mind.
I mean, New Mutants was peak superhero horror movie. You can't do it better than that one.
Haven't seen
I'm
that
just
one
gonna
either, but
snort
Chris's face
at that.
So.
The New Mutants is indeed a film. So that's about
It does indeed exist.
It technically has mutants in it. And it is a film. There were indeed planned reshoots that never happened. So, but
I those reshoots might have helped just
Yeah.
a little bit.
You know?
Usually they do. I'm just here to tell you that reshoots help. But yeah, for me, it definitely like sort of agree on both accounts that like it should have they tried to do too many things. They should have picked one thing in each category and like stuck with it. But at the same time, it again isn't the worst product that they've ever made. I wouldn't necessarily intentionally watch it again. Like there are certain MCU movies that I like I watch on repeat because they're like I just enjoy them so much. This is not one of them, but I wouldn't completely argue against it. But I would probably like put it on in the background while doing something else or whatever. But I wouldn't intentionally put it on just for the heck of putting it on.
Yeah, I think I agree with Chris. They should have decided horror or superhero, and they should have decided horror. And with
There is a right answer to that dichotomy.
yes. And I think they dropped the ball on any of the heavy hitting emotional moments that they could have had. I kept thinking of WandaVision. What is grief if not love persevering? And we didn't have any good like gut punch gotcha moments with any of the characters' journeys.
Yeah.
Just needed more emotions.
Watchers, commenters, all of those, you can let us know your thoughts on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in that comment section down below or over in our Discord. Before we wrap for the evening, what are our stream plans for this week?
I'll be streaming Spirit Fair tomorrow night.
Speaking of Spirit Fair, the YouTube videos for it are finally going up. That's my bad. So we should start having those go out this week. So
we can blame YouTube for that one.
Yeah.
I have no stream plans. Well, I will be in Vegas. Wish me luck.
I believe in you.
Don't know. I have a lot of unpacking to do, and everything is currently either in a box or a bucket.
Do what you gotta do. Wednesday night, Deanna and I will be streaming Dino Dodge by Blue Gear Games over on Cameron Plus Deanna with the designers of that board game coming to hang out with us and demo it. And so it is live on Kickstarter, but they're coming over to play it with us. So I'm super excited about that. And then want to keep calling it out, May 26th, Paranisi, our book club for the book of May, our book club for the month of May. There we go. Got there. By Susanna Clark. So if you haven't already, get reading. Or, wait till the week before, one of those.
This one's shorter, so.
Yeah. This isn't the robe where I have to specifically plan out to make sure that I don't have 200 pages to read the hour before we go live.
It is not indeed one of those.
That'll bring us to the end. Next week, I believe it'll be Shanine, Emma, and I hanging out, possibly talking Doctor Who.
Woo!
And so we'll see what's up with that. We did conveniently get some new Doctor Who news this week, so
very exciting.
There might be some hype about that, and so that'll be next week. And so if you want,
they knew what they had to do, and they did it.
Yeah, they knew.
I'll just say that.
Yeah,
they knew, and they did it.
We are First Geek 411. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also join our Discord server if you want to hang out during the week. All these links are down in the show notes. You can also send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com and check out our Redbubble store. You can watch live on Twitch Monday nights, 6:45 Mountain Time, and check out the videos on our YouTube. And then rate, comment, and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. You can find us through our personal social media. Mine is Hugh Marwitil.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES on Instagram.
And I'm not so foreign.
And it's been a great week.
Wash them hands.
Read a book.
I love you.